Great news. I've got some company in the studio, which is nice. And as you can probably guess, we're going to be talking about boxing now. And again, you can probably guess where we're going to start as well. It's Tyson Fury's stunning victory over Deontay Wilder. This was in Vegas at the weekend. Goodness me, what a fight it was. Adam Smith. The previous two fights between the two, I mean, they've been full of drama, but as a trilogy of fights, where does it rank? And they pretty much saved it the best till last as well, didn't they?
That's exactly what they did, Hayley. Right up there. The first fight was dramatic, of course, because Fury got up off the canvas in the 12th round, scored a draw, but I and many others thought Fury deserved that one. I was at the rematch in Vegas where he obliterated and went through Deontay Wilder. Then there was all the excuses and what happened. And of course, COVID came and the big delay. And would he fight AJ? And then Tyson got COVID himself, but got himself back together. Training camp went well. It went well enough, didn't it? And then into the fight. Deontay on a mission, came in a bit heavier. Malik Scott, the new trainer. And he started well, Deontay. First round, he was jabbing beautifully to the body, but he couldn't sustain it. Tyson Fury had him in dire straits in that third round. Then, of course, the twists of Fury going down a couple of times in the fourth. And then Tyson managed to regain control. I thought he was brilliant on the night. He orchestrated it fantastically. And as for Deontay Wilder's bravery and courage beyond the call, unbelievable how he stayed in it for so long. And it was one of the great heavyweight fights of all time. It was absolutely fabulous.
Where does it rank in terms of one of the greatest?
That's always a really difficult question.
Hard to compare, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very hard to compare. You know, Ali Fraser, the third one, the Thriller in Manila, the Rumble in the Jungle for the story, of course. And you know, we had our own AJ Klitschko at Wembley, which was an absolute humdinger. You know, Joshua probably a punch or two away from losing that and eventually getting his standout night. But it's got to be right up there. It was absolutely brilliant to watch. Gutted I wasn't in Vegas, gutted not commentating on it, of course, but actually as a fan, and a lot of us from Sky watching it and sort of texting through the night on what we thought. And, you know, after the fourth round when Fury had gone down a couple of times and it was on that knife edge, it was just, you could not take your eyes off it. It was magnificent. I think it was about courage, valor, but the skills that Tyson Fury showed and to come back from, again, adversity, ranks him as the #1 heavyweight of this time. And of course, Anthony Joshua, you know, for so long had those belts, and his loss to Alexander Usyk a couple of weeks ago. Tyson Fury stands definitively as the #1 and one of the great heavyweights now of all time.
Yeah, do you think actually one of the heavyweights of our era right now? He called himself, didn't he, the greatest heavyweight?
Well, what you've got to love or hate about Tyson Fury, he's brilliant, isn't he? He's a real character. He's authentic. What he's gone through. I remember when he was almost 30 stone out in Monaco a few years ago, and he came out and he told us all that he was going to become heavyweight champion again, because we were there in Germany where he beat Klitschko in that upset to win the titles. Then it all went wrong for him. He fought so much. He's been so open about depression, about mental health. He's been, you know, a breath of fresh air because of that authenticity. And he's come back. He told us all he'll lose the weight and he'll become king again. And he's not just done that. He's cemented it in 3 terrific performances over Deontay Wilder. Yes, we've never had that Joshua fight. Yes, he's not yet fought Alexander Usyk. But Tyson Fury has done absolutely everything. I thought the win against Klitschko was one of the great away wins of a British fighter on foreign soil. The second fight against Deontay Wilder, definitively, if not the best. And as for what happened on Saturday night, I mean, it beggars belief. And then he sung to us all afterwards. He's an incredible character.
He is. I don't know where he finds the energy. Every year there's a different baby as well. He's got all these children he's looking after. Well, I think Mrs. Fury
Paris, yes,
is actually doing a very good job, keeping them all in check.
And he had a serious illness with the youngest as well, you know, which obviously hampered preparations for this. And what Tyson's able to do is just, he's born to be a fighter. And I think what he gets in the ring is that sort of freedom. And he listened to Sugar Hill when he needed to get back to that jab, but his technique is phenomenal, and his ring generalship, and for a big man, he just utilises those weapons that he has so brilliantly. And yeah, of course, you know, will he go on to fight Usyk, or one day Anthony Joshua? Dillian Whyte is obviously possibly the mandatory up next if Whyte gets through Otto Wallin. But you've got to start comparing him now to some of the real top heavyweights of all time. Lennox Lewis, for me, our greatest fighter, alongside maybe Joe Calzaghe and Ken Buchanan since the war. But Lennox, you know, you've got to go some way still. Lennox was phenomenal. He, you know, unified the titles against Evander Holyfield. You know, obviously cemented his own legacy in that win over Mike Tyson, and he came back and was a 3-time heavyweight champion. But if Fury keeps going for the next 2 or 3 years and dismantles opposition like he did against Deontay Wilder, really 3 times, he's got to be remembered in the same bracket.
Now, if Dillian Whyte beats Otto Wallin later this month, Fury will be ordered by the WBC to fight him. Do you see that happening? I mean, he'll have to, won't he?
It's the Tyson Fury roadshow, isn't it? I think first of all he's going to have some relaxation time. I think he's going to go back to Morecambe, spend some time with his family. Listen, Dillian deserves his opportunity. He's waited and waited as that sort of WBC #1. He lost to Povetkin, then he exacted revenge on Alexander Povetkin. Now he's got Otto Wallin end of October, and yes, should he win that, which he should come through that. I think that he first of all, he deserves it, and secondly, I think it'd be fantastic for British boxing if we see Fury and Whyte. But obviously, you know, if AJ, who's triggered that rematch clause, can beat Alexander Usyk, which is going to be a tough ask, Hayley. But if he does, then that opens it up again for possibly, you know, that fight that everyone wants to see, which is Fury and Joshua. Most people now will really fancy Tyson Fury, where maybe they were on the fence before, but stars make fights and you never know. And what of Deontay Wilder? He's going to take this really to heart. It was a tough defeat for him, but what a gladiator. And I think as much as the Fury performance was phenomenal and the fight was right up there as one of the greatest of all time, you've got to take your hat off to the courage and the heart and the guts that Deontay Wilder showed just to stay with Fury for so long. And yeah, he's quite some fighter too.
Yeah, absolutely. So just briefly, we're just going to ask you, apart from looking ahead, looking further ahead, you touched on Joshua, you touched on this rematch. You've said we could potentially see Joshua Fury. Do you think that is realistic? Can Anthony Joshua do it?
Listen, I think AJ's got to concentrate on getting it right this time. He was outclassed, outboxed by Alexander Usyk. Wonderful performance from the Ukrainian at Tottenham, and Joshua didn't do enough in any way on the night. He needs to go back to the drawing board, think about how he takes on that fight. That's going to happen in the spring. And we'll see, you know, if AJ exacts revenge and becomes a 3-time champion, then of course the clamour for the Fury match will be stronger than ever. I think there's a lot of people still that obviously want to see Fury and Joshua share a ring before they call it a day. We'd love to see that fight, and as I say, styles make fights. Most would have Tyson Fury beating Joshua probably fairly easily now, but you know, don't write Anthony Joshua off just yet. He's got a rematch to go through with Usyk. We know what he's done. His resume's been phenomenal. He's never ducked anyone. He's a fantastic fighter in his own esteem as well, Anthony. So you never know. And let's see what Fury does and whether he wants to go on for the next year, 2, 3 years, because he looks pretty unbeatable at the moment to me.
Finally, busy man, what have you got to look forward to at the weekend?
Well, it's Newcastle this week, so it's Tyson's cousin, Hughie Fury, who fights Christian Hammer. We've got Chris Eubank on the bill after he missed out a couple of weeks ago. We've got Savannah Marshall, really excited about her returning to defend her world middleweight title in the Northeast, and Lewis Ritson, who the fans absolutely love. So takeover time in Newcastle, both in terms of football and this weekend boxing as well, Hayley, so we can't wait to get up there.